Somewhere in Service Canada's warehouse sits a piece of financial flat-pack furniture. Almost no Canadian couple has ever assembled. It's called pension sharing, and it legally splits a pension the tax return says cannot be split. The instructions exist, Form ISP 1002, Service Canada's own pension sharing pages, and the CRA's rules on what counts. But nobody reads them, so I did. I'm Nathan, and I've laid the whole thing out like an assembly manual. The parts list that decides if your household qualifies, the 6 build steps, the warning boxes where couples snap the wrong piece, and the finished product. A worked example of the tax a real couple saves. If your household has one big CPP check and one small one, this manual was written for you. Before we open the box, here's the promise printed on the label. A real Canadian couple, both age 66, sitting on very unequal CPP checks, say the higher earner takes $1,400 a month and the lower earner takes $500. Will move roughly $6,600 of taxable income a year from the higher earners' return to the lower earners. If the higher earner sits at a 33% combined federal-provincial bracket and the lower earner sits at 20%, that's a 13-point bracket gap on $6,600 or about $858 a year. Every year for the entire time the sharing runs. Multiply that by 10 or 15 or 20 years of retirement, and the family keeps thousands of dollars the CRA would otherwise take. That's the finished product on the front of the box. Now let's open it. Every assembly manual starts with what you're supposed to find inside, miss a part, and nothing screws together. This one has 4 parts on the checklist. Part 1, both spouses aged 60 or older, not 65, 60. The moment both of you have crossed that line, the paperwork can move. Younger than 60, the door is closed regardless of anything else. Common law counts identically to a legal marriage, provided you've cohabited in a conjugal relationship for at least 1 year. Part 2. 1. Or both of you must actually be receiving your CPP retirement pension, or have applied for it. Sharing rides on top of an existing pension, it cannot exist by itself. Part 3. Married or common law, and living together at the time of application. Voluntarily separated couples cannot start pension sharing. Involuntarily apart, say one spouse in long-term care, is a different situation and does not disqualify you. Part 4. The joint contributory period. This is the part everyone loses under the couch. The joint contributory period is the stretch of time during which either one of you could have been contributing to CPP. It starts on the birthday when the older spouse turned 18, and it ends the month you both begin drawing CPP retirement. If one spouse never contributed at all, a homemaker who never worked in Canada, for instance, that spouse's end date shifts to age 70, or the application date, whichever comes first. Only the portion of the couple's CPP earned during the months they actually lived together inside that joint contributory period is eligible to be moved between returns. Add all 4 to your parts list. If anyone is missing, don't try to force the assembly. Now, the piece where everyone slows down, the formula. CPP sharing is not a discretionary split like the CRA's pension income transfer. There is a formula, and Service Canada runs it, not you. The formula answers one question: how much of the couple's CPP is eligible to be moved? Take the difference between the higher earner's monthly CPP and the lower earner's monthly CPP. Multiply that difference by the fraction of the joint contributory period during which the couple lived together. That is the shareable amount. Half of it is then subtracted from the higher earner's check and added to the lower earner's check. Here it is with real numbers. Rita is 66 and collects $1,400 a month in CPP. Her husband David is 66 and collects $500 a month. The difference is $900. Their joint contributory period runs 48 years from the year the older of them turned 18 up to today. They've lived together for 40 of those 48 years. That means 40 divided by 48, or roughly 83%, of the joint contributory period was spent under one roof. Shareable portion, $900 times 83%, or about $747 per month. Half of that, around $373, comes off Rita's check and gets added to David's check. New numbers: Rita reports $1,027 per month. David reports $873 per month. Total family CPP is unchanged. Only the destination on the T1 slips is different. That last line is the whole point. CPP sharing never creates new dollars. It relocates existing dollars from a return where they are taxed high to a return where they are taxed low. Warning box number 1. And it is the exact reason this manual exists. Pension sharing on Form ISP 1002 is not the same instrument as pension income splitting on Form T 1032. They look similar from the outside, but the tax return will refuse to accept the wrong one. Form T 1032 is an election made at tax time on the return itself, and it moves eligible pension income, RRIF withdrawals, after 65, defined benefit pensions, certain annuity payments, up to 50% from one spouse to the other. CPP is explicitly not on that list of eligible pension income. Try to move it there, and the CRA will send it back. Pension sharing, by contrast, is filed with Service Canada, not the CRA. It happens before the T4 AP slips are issued each year. Service Canada reslices the pension at source, so each spouse's slip already shows the split amount when it lands in the mailbox. That is why CPP sharing exists as its own tool, because the tax return has no way to split CPP after the fact. If it did, this video would not need to be made. Now the assembly steps. 6 of them. In order: Step 1, pull the form. It is called ISP 1002, Application for Canada Pension Plan, Pension Sharing of Retirement Pensions. It is a PDF on the canada.ca site, 6 pages long. Free to download. Do not confuse it with ISP 1000, which is the retirement pension application itself. If one or both of you have never actually applied for your CPP retirement pension, you need ISP 1000 first. The sharing form assumes at least one pension is on the books. Step 2, gather the proof. If you are both already collecting CPP, all Service Canada needs is proof of the relationship: an original marriage certificate for a legal marriage, or the statutory declaration of common law union, Form ISP 3004 for the joint signature version, or ISP 3104 for the single signature version for common law couples. If either one of you has not yet started CPP, expect Service Canada to also want proof of age and a social insurance number. Step 3, fill out the sections. Both spouses complete their own personal information: legal name, SIN, date of birth, current address. Section 24A on the form is the one that trips people up. It asks whether there have been any periods during your marriage or common law union when you did not live together. Answer honestly. Service Canada uses this to calculate the joint living together fraction that goes straight into the formula. Step 4, sign it. Both signatures are technically not mandatory, but the form itself states clearly that having both signatures lets Service Canada reach a decision faster. Get both signatures. Step 5, mail it. There is no online submission portal for ISP 1002 as of the 2026 tax year. It is a paper form, and it goes by post to the Service Canada office listed on the last page of the application, which depends on the province you live in. Keep a photocopy of the signed form before you send it. Step 6. Wait for the decision letter. Service Canada will contact you when the application has been received, and again when it is either accepted or rejected. Once accepted, the sharing takes effect the month after the application is approved, not retroactively. That timing matters if you are planning around a specific tax year. Apply in November, and the split may not begin until January or February. Who actually gains from all this? The diagnostic checklist of couples for whom this move clears real money. Couple Type 1, the classic bracket gap household. One spouse earning around $60,000 or more of total taxable income in retirement. One spouse under about $30,000. Every dollar moved from the higher earner's return to the lower earner's return is being retaxed at a lower bracket. The bigger the bracket gap, the bigger the annual saving. Couple type? 2. The OAS clawback couple. The clawback threshold for the 2026 tax year is $95,323 of individual net income, above which the CRA takes back 15 cents of OAS for every extra dollar. If one spouse sits just above $95,323 and the other sits comfortably below, moving several $1,000s of CPP off the higher return can pull them under the threshold and preserve some, sometimes all, of the OAS they would otherwise repay. The clawback zone runs upward to roughly $148,000 for retirees aged 65 to 74, and every dollar removed from that zone counts twice, once at the marginal tax rate, once at the 15% recovery rate. Couple type 3, the GIS adjacent household. The guaranteed income supplement is income tested and phases out fast. CPP sharing can, in some very specific low-income households, move enough taxable income from a GIS receiving spouse to a non-GIS spouse to increase the GIS entitlement of the receiving spouse. It is a narrow use case, but it exists, not on this list. And worth stating plainly, any couple where both spouses are in the same tax bracket to begin with, if both of you already sit in the 20.5% band, moving money from one return to the other does nothing. The CRA takes the same slice on either side. Warning box number 2. Once assembled, this piece of furniture does not stay assembled forever. Pension sharing cancels automatically in 4 situations. The first, either spouse cancels it in writing and the sharing ends the following month. The second, divorce, in which case the sharing ends the month the divorce is finalized. The third, separation lasting 12 months or more. The sharing ends the 12th month after the couple starts to live separately and apart. The fourth, death of either spouse, which ends the sharing that same month and reverts the survivor's CPP to the individual calculation. There is no grandfathering, no partial continuation, no appeal. When it ends cleanly, and both spouses go back to their original entitlements the following month. Troubleshooting. 2 real cases where couples get stuck. The first, both spouses have contributed to CPP and both have their own retirement pensions. In this scenario, both pensions get shared, not just the larger one. The formula runs both ways. A fraction of each spouse's pension gets moved onto the other's, slip, and the combined family total stays identical. This surprises people who assume the smaller pension is untouched. It isn't. It goes into the same blender. The second, and the honest case, this move saves nothing. If one spouse's CPP is much larger than the other's, but both spouses' total taxable incomes sit in the same federal bracket, say both between $57,375 and $114,750 for the 2026 tax year, the reallocation moves money from a spot taxed at, for example, 20.5% federal to a spot taxed at 20.5% federal. No saving. Provincial rates might create a small gap, but not enough to justify the paperwork in every province. Run the numbers before mailing the form. If your accountant tells you the saving is under a few $100s a year, some households still file it anyway for the simplicity of income equalization on paper, and some do not. That is one of the few judgment calls in the whole build. Now, back to Rita and David, whose parts we labeled at the start, the finished product laid out against the original promise. The promise on the box was this: move $6,600 of taxable income a year off the higher return, save around $858 a year in the bracket gap. With the assembly done, here's the proof. Rita's slip drops from about $16,800 a year of CPP to about $12,300. David's slip rises from about $6,000 to about $10,500. The combined family CPP is $22,800, the same before and after. Rita's taxable income falls by roughly $4,500 out of a 33% bracket. That is about $1,485 less in federal provincial tax on her return. David's taxable income rises by roughly $4,500 into his 20% bracket. That is about $900 more in tax on his return. Net saving, around $585 to $850 for the household in year one, depending on the province. And because Rita's net income now sits further below the OAS clawback threshold of $95,323, any OAS recovery tax she was paying at the margin is reduced or eliminated, adding another 15 cents of preserved OS for every dollar of income pulled below the line. That is the finished piece of furniture. One form, 6 pages, mailed once, with a Service Canada reslicing that runs automatically every year until one of the 4 cancellation events fires. No re-election every April, no T, 1032 attached to the return, no tax preparer fee that scales with the balance. The tax move sits in Service Canada's warehouse in Ottawa, boxed and instructional diagrammed, waiting for a spouse of 60 or older to open the lid, and almost nobody ever does. The manual is here, the parts are in the box, the build takes an afternoon. And the finished product pays every year quietly for as long as the piece stays assembled.